Assalamu alaikum. In this video, I want to speak about how the book of Jeremiah disrespects God. Jeremiah accuses God of, number one, metaphorically raping him, subhanAllah. Jeremiah files a lawsuit against God, and Jeremiah accuses God of deceiving him. So this is all very disrespectful, to say the least. Let's begin with the rape allegation, and of course, this is a metaphorical rape, subhanAllah. This is what Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 7 says. O Lord, you have enticed me, and I was enticed. You have overpowered me, and you prevailed. I have become a laughing stock all day long. Everyone mocks me. A New Oxford Annotated Bible with Apocrypha writes in their commentary here, using strong language with sexual overtones, Jeremiah complains of having been tricked or seduced by God. All right. Here, the Jewish Study Bible says, so the prophet employs strong language to characterize God's deceptive character. Okay, entice, to allure, is employed in Exodus and Hosea to describe a man's seduction of a woman, as well as in Judges to describe a woman's seduction of a man. The following verbs, you overpowered me and you prevailed, suggest rape. Jeremiah continues to employ this metaphor when he describes the pain and humiliation caused him by the word of the Lord. So what is this? SubhanAllah. This is the Anchor Bible commentary on Jeremiah. Now it translates it as, you seduced me, the Lord, and I let you. You seized and overcame me. Okay. And on page 132, he writes, you seduced me, the Lord, and I let you. The word seduce is chosen, and the familiar you employed to bring out the well-nigh blasphemous tone that Jeremiah adopts. Literally, you seduced me, and I was seduced. The verb is used of seduction in Exodus 22 and Judges. What is that? I don't know. I don't know Roman numerals very well. You seized. Naqal of the verb with direct object can mean overpower. Seized. Perhaps the sense is you forced me, thus carrying forward the figure of seduction. And there are others, I think, who translate it as you deceived me, but the seduced translation is more appropriate, and because the seduced translation is more appropriate because it then goes on to speak about God overpowering him, right? So if you translate it as seduce, it makes more sense with the context and the imagery here, which is sexual. It not only speaks about seduction, but then overpowering. So when you look at the whole of the verse, okay, to understand it as having these sexual metaphors, better fits the entirety of the verse than just having it speaking about deceive, because then you're leaving out the fact that the verse continues on by speaking about God overpowering him. Okay, this is commentary on Jeremiah 1, and he says in page 553, the probability is strong that the verb you are stronger than I continues the semantic field of sexual violence with which the verse began. Since these verbs are used in laws against sexual violence, the implication is that the Lord has broken his own Torah in his treatment of Jeremiah, meaning he's raped him. SubhanAllah. And these are verses where the overpowering thing is used to suggest rape, right? He refused to listen to her, and since he was stronger than she, implies rape. Deuteronomy 22 as well. If you look at the Hebrew, I think for Deuteronomy 22, the rape thing says stronger. Now, it's interesting. We see in a midrash that Jeremiah seems to plead with God. Anyway, he seems to plead with God, and he says, like, please don't punish Israel so severely. And this is the rabbis explain it here in this midrash with a parable. And in the parable, God is a king, okay, and Jeremiah is the best friend. So this is the prophet who's portrayed as the best friend. Anyway, that is example number 1, the rape thing. Now we're going to go to example number 2, where Jeremiah sues God. SubhanAllah. What is this? So William L. Holiday, who is the same person whose commentary we just looked at, he translates Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 1 as, you are innocent, O Lord, when I lodge a complaint with you, yet I would pass judgment upon you. Now, the beginning here, you are innocent, O Lord, that could be translated as you are righteous, okay? But as we go on, we start to see these terms that have to do with suing and lawsuits and judgment and courts. So that's why the "you are innocent" translation makes more sense in the context, because the context has this like courtroom imagery. So if we translate it as "you are innocent," we are following along with the courtroom imagery. Okay. Uh, and we see this with the second phrase he uses, which is the verb rib, which has forensic overtones, as he mentions. Then he uses this phrase, "or pass judgment on you," which, if we look at the Hebrew, the phrase is uh, mishpatim deber, which is like "your judgments, let me speak." That's how they rendered it. But this is the technical phrase in Hebrew. Okay. And we'll discuss this now. The phrase means, "I have declared judgment on you," or "I've sued you." So the idea is, even though you would be innocent, I'm still going to sue you. And what is he suing God for? Well, we're going to see what he's suing God for. But anyway, let's see some references. So this is the New Oxford Annotated Bible with Apocrypha. And it says on Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 1, "The complaints of Jeremiah and God merge in their grief over Israel. Such accusations against God and at the same time against one's enemies is characteristic of Israelite piety. Just as Jeremiah is alienated from his own family, so God is alienated from God's own house." Okay, this is the key part. Verse 1, "lay charges," a technical term for a formal legal appeal. Okay, see the book of Job for the notion of a suit against God. So they're saying that Jeremiah here is suing God. This is the Jewish Study Bible. It translates it as, "You will win, O Lord, if I make a claim against you, yet I shall present charges against you. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why are the workers of treachery at ease?" And in the commentary here, they say the prophet employs legal language to charge that God has failed to do justice. Okay, so this is the same author whose article we looked at, and it's the same commentary we've looked at before, William L. Holiday, and he says, "You will be innocent, the Lord, when I dispute with you. Nevertheless, I will speak judgments upon you." And he says, um, again, that there's legal language in this verse, which is why the "innocent" and this sort of translation is better. And then he mentions that there are translations who say, "I want to speak with you about your judgments," right? Instead of "I will speak judgments upon you," or "I will judge you," or I will sue you, they translate it as "I want to ask you about your judgment," something like that. So they're like watering it down. Now, how do we know that the correct translation is um I sue you, or I pass sentence on you, or I pronounce judgment on you? Okay, the way we know this is that he says here that this idiom, okay, it's only used in the book of Jeremiah, and it always means to pronounce judgment on. Okay, so there's no reason to think it means something else here. Let me just see if I can find the quote here. Okay, I think that was a earlier screenshot, but anyway, we'll try and find it. Well, I'll try and find it later. But anyway, here you can see in the book of Jeremiah the other places where the same idiom is used, and it always means to pronounce judgment. "And I will utter my judgments against them concerning all their wickedness." It's the same idiom. Wedebar mishpate. Okay, Jeremiah 4:12. "I will speak judgment against them." Okay, Jeremiah 39:5 and 52:9. They're like the same passage. But Debar ito mishpatim, where he pronounced on him judgment. And you can see in context here, it very obviously means judgment, right? And so when that's what the phrase means every time in the book of Jeremiah, obviously when Jeremiah uses it for God, it means "I pronounce judgment on you." Those who translate it as "I want to ask you about your judgments" are simply watering it down because they feel theologically um, awkward about it. I'm trying to find a quote where he says it's only in the book of Jeremiah. Yeah, okay, so here he says the third phrase is, however, the crucial one. The idiom debar mishpatim at followed by a second accusative is found only in the book of Jeremiah. Okay, the clearest context is 39:5, where Nebuchadnezzar pronounced judgment against Zedekiah. Okay, there is no justification then for the Revised Standard Version translation. Okay, the final one here is Jeremiah accusing God of deception. So this is Jeremiah 15, verse 18. Truly, you're to me like a deceitful brook, like waters that fall. And then in another translation, like it's formulated as a question, like you indeed be to me like a deceptive stream with water that is unreliable. So this is the same author's commentary. He says, the infinite absolute before the finite verb you are becoming underlies the affirmation of the verb against an assumed denial. You are you not? It is bold and bitter language to level at the Lord without phraseology parallel in the Old Testament, where the Lord rhetorically has asked of Israel, have I become a wilderness to Israel? Jeremiah now turns back affirmatively onto him with regard to their own relationship. The language is so bold that both G and V construe as third person singular, feminine, a predicate of my wound, etc., etc. Okay. And I'll just end with this ayah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala amma yaquluna uluwan kabira. Which means, let's see, glorified and highly exalted is he above what they claim. So again, Jeremiah accusing God of metaphorically raping him, deceiving him, and suing God. Like, what is this?